Close your eyes, dear listener, and imagine this. A small, quiet room glowing with the warm, sleepy light of a bedside lamp. Outside the window, night stretches like a velvet curtain, stitched with stars tiny lanterns hung by invisible hands. Emma lay curled beneath a quilt as soft as whispers, her golden hair spilling like sunlight across her pillow. Her eyes, two wide pools of moonlight, refused to close. Sleep danced just out of reach, like a butterfly that wouldn't land. The house was hushed. The only sound was the steady tick-tock of the clock on the mantel, each tick like the heartbeat of the night. Shadows tiptoed along the walls, stretching long and strange, as if they had secrets of their own. Why do nights feel so big? Emma murmured, her voice no louder than a sigh. She hugged her knees, staring at the curtains swaying, gently kissed by the breath of the night. And then she heard it. Not a voice, not a sound like any she knew, just a whisper. Come closer. Emma's breath caught like a bird in a net. She sat up, her small hands gripping the edge of her blanket. Her heart thumped, thump thump, like a tiny drum inside her chest. Who's there? She whispered back, though her voice trembled like a candle flame dot in her answer. Only the hush of the night. But Emma was sure, completely sure, that the whisper had been real. She slid off her bed, her bare feet soft against the rug, and tiptoed to the window. The glass was cool beneath her fingertips as she peered into the dark garden. Trees loomed like sleeping giants, and the roses curled in slumber, their petals folded tight like tiny secrets. And then, like a ribbon of wind curling through the night, the whisper came again. Come and see. Emma's heart trembled. The whisper seemed to tug at her soul like invisible fingers. Emma's toes touched the cool wooden floor. It sent a shiver racing up her legs. But she didn't stop. She reached for her robe, wrapping it around her small frame like a cocoon of courage. Her heart fluttered wildly, but her feet kept moving. The whisper called again, softer now, as if afraid of being heard by anyone but her. Come closer, little dreamer. She turned the brass knob of her door ever so slowly, holding her breath as it gave a tiny squeak. The hallway beyond was dark. The kind of dark that feels alive, watching, listening. Emma tiptoed past her parents' door, past the ticking grandfather clock, past the shadows that pooled like ink in the corners. Each step felt like stepping deeper into a story, one she hadn't read yet, but one she had always hoped existed to last. She reached the back door. The night air greeted her like an old friend, cool and full of secrets. The garden stretched beyond, silvered by moonlight, hushed like a cathedral. The grass bent under her feet, damp with dew, whispering with each step. The roses nodded in their sleep as if acknowledging her presence. Somewhere, a nightingale sang a song so soft, it felt like a lullaby stitched from starlight. Where are you leading me? Emma whispered, her voice trembling but curious. The only answer was the wind, brushing her cheek like a mother's gentle hand. And then she saw it dot the far edge of the garden, where ivy tangled thick around a crumbling wall. Something glimmered, faint, like a sigh of light. Her breath hitched, her bare toes curled into the cool earth, and as she took another step forward, the whisper curled around her like a ribbon of silk. Come and see. Emma's small feet sank into the damp earth as she stepped fully into the garden. The moon was high now, a glowing pearl in a sea of midnight blue, painting everything in silver whispers. Each blade of grass kissed her toes with cool dew. The air smelled of jasmine, sweet and dreamy, like a lullaby woven from petals. Above her, the sky stretched wide and endless. Stars winked like tiny secrets, and Emma thought, for the first time, that maybe the night wasn't so big after all. Maybe it was just a blanket, a soft, dark quilt tucked around the sleeping world. She took another step, then another. The path was faint, almost hidden, but the moonlight poured across it like spilled milk, guiding her forward. Why do I feel safe? She wondered. The whisper hadn't spoken again, yet something inside her felt warm, like a candle glowing behind her ribs. A moth fluttered past her cheek, its wings brushing her skin like silk. She giggled softly, and the sound drifted into the night like a bubble carried by the wind. And then the scent grew stronger, richer, a perfume so delicate it made her close her eyes and breathe in deeply. "What is that?"
Emma murmured. The answer lay ahead, waiting beyond the ivy.
Emma walked slowly, as if afraid to break the spell that held the night together.
The whisper had faded, but the garden spoke in other ways now.
Through scents, through stillness, through shadows that curved like smiles, the roses stood like sentinels, on either side of her, their petals opening just a little, as though peeking at the brave little dreamer wandering by. Drops of dew trembled on the edges of leaves, catching the moonlight and turning into tiny stars she could almost pluck. "If I touch one, will it melt?" she wondered, reaching out with hesitant fingers.
The drop quivered at her touch, then rolled gently down, like a tear sliding off the cheek of a sleeping angel. Emma giggled softly, but the sound felt sacred, like laughter in a church beyond the roses. The ivy grew thicker, twisting like green braids over a crumbling wall. It looked old, older than the house, older than anything Emma had ever known, and nestled within its tangled arms was a shape, a secret shape, waiting. She stepped closer. The perfume of jasmine was almost dizzying now, mingled with the earthy breath of moss and stone. Her heart drummed softly, like a lullaby for courage. "There's something there," she whispered to herself. The ivy trembled not with the wind, but as though something beyond it had just sighed. Emma's fingers brushed the ivy, and it felt cool, damp, alive. The leaves clung stubbornly, like guardians shielding a secret they'd vowed never to tell. But Emma had always been gentle.
She didn't pull or tear, she coaxed.
She whispered little apologies to the vines as she eased them aside, uncovering what they had hidden for perhaps 100 years. And there it was. A gate, iron wrought into graceful curls, kissed by rust and time. The bars were laced with vines like emerald ribbons, but through their gaps, a darkness shimmered, not a frightening darkness, but a deep, velvety one, rich with the promise of wonder. Emma ran her fingers along the cool iron. It hummed faintly beneath her touch, like a string waiting to sing. She glanced over her shoulder, half expecting someone to appear and scold her for being out so late. But the garden was empty. Only the moon watched, and it seemed to nod as if to say, "Go on." Her small hands curled around the bars.
She pressed her face to the gap and whispered into the unknown, "What's in there?"
And for the first time in many minutes, the voice answered, soft as a sigh, sweet as a secret. "Home." Emma's heart leapt like a startled bird. Home? But she was home, wasn't she? The gate trembled under her hands, just slightly, enough to make her believe that maybe, just maybe, it wanted her to open it. Emma hesitated, her small fingers still resting on the gate. The silence on the other side wasn't empty, it was full, like a cup brimming with something unseen. She closed her eyes, letting her senses drink it in, and then
a scent wrapped
around her like silk. Not just jasmine this time, but roses deep and velvety, rich with the perfume of old summers. Emma turned her head, and there they were, a row of roses stretching into the shadows, their blooms heavy, nodding sleepily under the moon.
They weren't like the roses by her window. These were
older, wilder.
Their petals curled like whispers, their colors muted by silver light, yet glowing faintly. As though remembering the sun, Emma knelt beside them, her breath mingling with their secret fragrance.
She reached out, and her fingertips brushed a bloom so soft it seemed alive, breathing beneath her touch. "Are you dreaming too?" she murmured to the roses, and though they gave no answer, she felt something stir, a hush that wasn't just silence.
A presence as gentle as starlight resting on her shoulders.
The roses seemed to lean toward her, as if listening.
Or maybe, as if waiting.
Emma's gaze drifted back to the gate. The darkness beyond wasn't just darkness anymore.
Something shimmered there, a pinprick of light, faint but bright against the velvet shadows.
It pulsed slowly, like the heartbeat of a hidden world. Her breath caught. She rose, drawn to it as though by a thread spun from starlight. Each step felt softer than the last, her bare feet barely touching the grass. The whisper hadn't returned, but she didn't need it now. The light was calling her. She pressed closer to the gate, her face brushing the cool bars. The glow trembled, then darted quick as a firefly deeper into the unseen. "Wait," Emma gasped, her voice a puff of cloud in the night. The spark hesitated, then flickered 3 times as if in reply before vanishing into the dark. Emma's heart thudded like a drum of wonder and fear. She gripped the gate harder.
Something inside her whispered not a voice, but a knowing. This is only the beginning.
Emma rested her forehead against the cold iron.
The world felt hushed, like a story pausing before the next word. She didn't know what lay beyond that gate.
She didn't know if she could open it, or if she even should, but she knew this. She couldn't walk away. Somewhere beyond those bars, something waited, something beautiful.
Something that had whispered to her through the night, calling her out of her warm bed and into the arms of the moon. Emma closed her eyes and whispered, barely a breath, "I'll come back." The ivy rustled softly, as though answering.
A single
petal drifted down and landed on her bare foot, cool and tender as a kiss, and then
the whisper came once more, curling like smoke through the night. "We'll be here, waiting." Emma smiled.
For the first time in a long time, her heart felt light like a lantern glowing against the dark. She turned back toward the house, the
roses bowing gently as she passed, the moon following her like a guardian. She didn't look back. Not yet.
Because some promises are sweeter when they wait in the dark.
Like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more bedtime tales.